I'm Gemma. I'm the founder of Culture Gem, and I'm a cyber behaviour and culture specialist. And joining me today is John Carroll. Welcome, John.
Hi, thanks, Jemma.
So you are my last guest of the series. So super excited that you're here. Can you tell me a little bit about yourself?
About myself or about work?
Whatever flavour that takes is up to you.
About me. I like. Well, I'm 40 now. I'm 41 now. I've just become a dad 8 months ago. That's fun, interesting, tiring, and awesome. I like photography. I like design. I like movies. I'd say I like bike riding, but my awful back won't let me get out that much. I think the main thing though is enjoying cybersecurity, because that allows me to do something that I love. I think that ties in quite nicely. What do you reckon?
Yeah, that was good. Yeah. So just before we hit record, I reminded you of something that we actually were supposed to meet quite a few years ago, but and where I was reminded of this is in a previous episode. Rachel Sosin and I were talking about horrible things at networking that we're both really terrible at, and how I find it really difficult to leave a conversation at a networking event that I don't want to be in, to the point where I once waited 45 minutes for someone else's taxi, and then when they got in the taxi I was like, bye then. And it was really weird situation, but I didn't know where it was socially acceptable for me to leave because their taxi was late. I wasn't waiting for a taxi, but anyway. So Rachel was talking about the importance of leaving things that you're not feeling is for you. And the reason that we didn't meet a few years ago is because you walked away from a situation where you didn't feel like it was the right thing for you.
I know what you're talking about. I think the young ones call it not my vibe. But essentially, I've been contracting for I guess maybe 9 years now, and one of the things that's important to me is to feel happy about the work that I'm doing, because that's the money that the clients are paying. But also the reasons for why I'm there have to be interesting enough for me to want to be there. Because of ADHD, and I didn't have a mortgage then. But that place was interesting. I thought that I was going to be doing some good work, and it turned out that it was just more like it wasn't the case. So I thought, right, well, I don't need the money. I can have a good conversation, and I can articulate why I don't feel like I'm being well spent here. And as a result of that, we're gonna part ways. And yeah. You know, if you do want any advice, although it might not be the case, here's some statements that I think you should do as my sort of final leaving for. It's not personal. It's just more like a value and stimulation. If you work in this space because you enjoy the work that you do, and you feel like your voice isn't being heard, what's the point in being there? You know, you're just warming the seat up and talking to yourself. And you know, it's not the first place. I don't make a habit of it, but there was another incident where I shouldn't call it an incident actually. I was with an organisation, quite a stylish one actually, and they were struggling to understand why, pardon me, nobody was doing things the way that they wanted, and I'd suggested that actually maybe the strategy was a little bit out, and if they really wanted change, here's some recommendations. But I think when you apply for a job, you've seen the memes where you apply for a job and it's like, you're not doing all the things that you want us to do. Yeah, well, you're asking me to do things that weren't declared in the job description. And you don't want to be too much of a pedant, but if you're there to do X, Y, Z, and they've given you A, B, C, that's not compatible with the reason why you're like, I'm so happy that I've got this job. Outside of, you know, some people might not be privileged enough to work in a space that they truly enjoy and love. They might just be like, I need some money. They've got some money. I've got other things that I care about outside of work. Like I might have some excellent hobbies. I don't know why I'm pointing over there, but that's where my hobbies are. The dog.
Coat rack.
But yeah, I think it boils down to being honest with what you think you can do with the time that you've got there. If it's a short gig, you might want to grit and bear it, and your key message to those as you're leaving might be, this your feedback. But yeah, I don't think it's a bad thing to walk away as long as you can articulate why you're doing it and why you think that that's fair. And that goes for any social situation. If somebody's making you feel uncomfortable, you can tell them and then possibly have a conflict, or you can just be like, do you know what, I'm going to leave them to it and let other people find out, so that they can make their own decisions. Or if you feel like it's worth standing and drawing a line in the sand and say, no, this does need to change, and you're hiring me for my expertise, and let's have a conversation. We can do that in private, or if the setting is very open and transparent, then have at it, and there might be information that changes the dynamic of what you thought the situation was, but you not being exposed to it might be another reason why. Well, don't you think that was important? This changes things. Yeah. But I think when you're around good people that are malleable and are willing to listen, and even say, like, sometimes, like when me and you have worked in places in the past where we might have had some decisions that absolutely suck, but it's the sympathy and the acknowledgement that it sucks from leadership or parental powers that say, this isn't ideal, you've just got to get your head down and crack on with it. It's so much more tolerable in a way than just sort of saying, you're doing it, and I think that the language and communication part of stuff, once it's considered, because we're all quite smart people in cyber to a reasonable degree, but we still need a little bit of that sort of compassion, because we care. I was going to say we give a, but I'm not allowed to swear. So
you can do all the swearing. I don't mind.
So I think that appreciation and compassion, like, we know that what you're saying is right, but that might not be available as an option for another year, and this is a tactical thing, and this is a slow moving machine. I think the other side of it is having a read on people. If you don't feel like somebody is listening to you and they don't necessarily have your interests, they just want to be able to say, we have a cyber person working for us, leave us alone. A bit of a tick box. You hear that term quite a lot in our space. If your value isn't being capitalized on, then you're probably in the wrong place. So go and find somewhere else.
Yeah, but I think whilst that all sounds like a sensible thing, I think sometimes that can be challenging, as you said, because you've got mortgages to pay or bills, or like responsibilities, being a grown up. And also there's a confidence aspect to say, like, my moral, my value, where I sit is here, and you're falling outside of that. And it is tricky. I was actually in a conversation with a group of cyber people last week, and they were talking about being able to say no and negotiate, like, things like day rates, and no, I'm not going to do that project. And I found that immensely tricky when I came into the world of contracting, or being, my own person. I would say yes to everything. People would give me a day rate and I'd say, yeah, I can work with that. Whether that meant I could pay my mortgage or not, I was so afraid of saying no that I didn't say no. But as life moved on, I guess I do it like a false confidence thing. I'm still not overly confident because of the imposter syndrome and things. But I recently had a recruiter speak to me about a contract, and they said, this is the day rate, and I said, that's below where I sit in the market. And he said, oh, but this is a really rare role. And I was like, let me stop you. I'm a very rare person. And that is why you've called me, because you can't find anybody else. So don't try and hardball with me.
Yeah.
The other thing I get is, like, I'll price a project or something, and someone says, oh, someone equally as skilled, or, another company, they've agreed to do it at this rate. And I say, well, good luck with that relationship, and let me know if there's something I can do to help you in the future. But I think I have to pull on my biggest girl pants to be like, I'm brave and I can do this. And I don't have the confidence to be able to do that. But I think there's something to be said about saying, this is not for me, and I'm walking away.
Yeah, on the confidence thing, it'll come through necessity, unless I think the only way like through my career, I've asked for more remuneration, more money, and I've gotten it. And I think that's because it's been fair and measured. Like I haven't gone extreme, like give me 10 million a second. But like in the past where people would say you're too expensive, I say no, your client can't afford me. That's two different things. People have and will continue to pay me what I ask because they believe that I'm worth it, as do I. I think that I'm a fair price. I don't think I'm the cheapest, but you don't get the cheapest kind of, what's the saying that's going around? Minimum wage, minimum effort. Like there's some people with that attitude, and I've known organizations not to select somebody because their price was too low, and it made them nervous. And I know that there's probably people going, that's crazy.
No.
Like, genuinely, like there's people that would be like, I'm suspicious of that cost. I'm going to go with somebody that I can rely on, maybe a bit more expensive, maybe a bit more accountable. But yeah, I have no problem telling people that that's too low. But I'm in a tricky place now where, if I was to give up contracting and go for a permanent role, the shift in lifestyle would be, the relationship with the taxman would be a bit different, and also justifying myself to an English company at the cost that I get as a contractor. Obviously I'd get benefits that I don't get as a contractor in a permanent role. The healthcare, dental, a bike on cycle to work, so I can ride around my house and then go back in. But there'll be a lot of cool things, like maybe the travel and international conferences we'll all get paid for and all that stuff. But it's kind of like you get these golden handcuffs when you've been in contracting for a while, and you build something up. I'd say build something up. It's still just me, but you're right in terms of eventually you'll either have the confidence or you'll do some really good work, or you might even need to be around other people that say you should charge more. Like I have a friend who started contracting a while ago, and if you don't ask, you don't get. It really is that simple. And if you've got friendly contractor friends, I don't think that if you've got friends that do contracting, we're not combative. We're not like, oh well, I'm not going to tell you how much I'm earning because you might undercut me and get that work. I think that when you've got good reputation and good people know that you're available, sometimes not having a good reputation, but just letting people know that you're available is the reason that you'll win work as well, and that's fine. It gives you an opportunity to show them why you're worth that money, or actually that they've picked the right person for future partnerships. But if you don't have the confidence, it will come eventually, or you'll end up doing something else, or you might get bullied into a permanent role, which might suck, and then you'll eventually get the confidence. There'll be a long road ahead, but you need the means to be able to say, this isn't right for me, and sometimes having that conversation might mean that you do end up getting what you want, because there is budget available, and sometimes the people getting you the work don't have your interests at heart. The sort of recruiter dynamic might be, if they're recruiting for you, they'll get commission from you, whereas if they're recruiting on behalf of the company, they want to get you as low as they possibly can, and there's wiggle room there, like there is for most things, for hiring and or acquiring services from other people.
On the subject of recruiting and I guess talent acquisition and the motivations and things, you probably, like I, have seen the untenable list of requirements that now exists in the cyber world of job descriptions, and where that really irritates me is most of the amazing people that I have met in the cyber world that are my really good friends now accidentally fell into cyber, for one, and two, probably you and I on paper should not be where we are in the world, and I'm very open and honest about why that is a thing, and I've dragged kicking and screaming into the world of cyber, but now this ridiculous list of requirements, so you must have 5 years experience for a junior position and that sort of thing. Do you think that's damaging the cyber industry?
Oh, you've put me in a position here, Gemma. I love it. If I'm hiring somebody, I think I would feel safer with somebody with a computer science background only because I feel nice when they're that they know things. But when I look across my peers and I look at all of the people that don't necessarily have the qualifications that you need to jump through to get through the HR process, they're all very diverse. They're all very, very creative, capable thinkers, second and third order thinkers, I like to call them, where they're not looking at the initial problem that they're solving. They're also looking at the consequences that have a knock-on effect because of that. And I don't think that that's something that you get without having a rapid mind. I think that there's people like us that you give us a problem and then it won't be lists and it won't be maps. It'll be 3D, 4D exploded diagrams of like, well, let's go and mess around over here before I give my answer. But that's a tricky one because if you look at how broad cyber has become. Like when I first started, you had a choice from a pen testing perspective. Actually, if we go back even further, we can talk about some of this stuff if you like. So I left school at 14 and a half. I managed to do 6 months of brickwork at at college because they were like, "What do you want to do? You don't have a school. No schools will take you." I wasn't a little shit, but the circumstances meant that I wasn't in school, and they put me in college. I was like, well, my dad's a bricklayer, so in some like primitive way, I was like, I'll be a bricklayer as well. So I did like my first MVQ, and then I was halfway through my second MVQ, and they were like, technically you've left school, so you have to leave. I was like, okay, cool. And I did roofing for a little while as an apprentice, and my uncle came round to to do something to my electric because I couldn't afford it. I was just about to turn 16. I was in a flat where, and I was on £45 a week. We spoke about this earlier. I couldn't get a crisis loan because I wasn't 18, which meant I couldn't put like refrigerators or cook, like stuff around my flat that I'd managed to get for free. And my uncle came around to do some stuff that would make it a little bit easier for me to have energy. And it was like, I'm gonna build a computer shop. I'm gonna have the computer shop, and we're gonna fix PlayStations and build PCs. If you wanna change, come and join me. So I ended up working for his computer shop for a while, and eventually looped me back around into going into college. And I failed college too because I was on antidepressants at the time, or sleeping pills at the time, and I couldn't stay awake because if you've ever had those kind of tablets, they don't do much but mong you out. I don't know if that's the correct term to use, but they make you very, very sleepy, and you can't focus. And the tutor knew that I had talent, but he's like, you have to get through this bit before we can do the next bit. It's important, and I can't just tell people that you're good. You have to demonstrate it. And I always had that fear of exams because I did my SATs and that was it, And then initially, I was always interested in cyber. I ended up going through graphic design, working, like messing around with Adobe, Macromedia at the time, Photoshop and Illustrator and Freehand and all these cool tools, helping a small graphic design studio out, but also doing a little bit of IT for small businesses in my hometown because they didn't know how to do like Windows XP had just come out and everybody wanted to be on the internet. So I'd sort of always mess around with IT to a degree, but I really enjoyed the creative side of photography and visual communication and graphic design and all that fun stuff. And in 2007, I ended up moving to London, and I got into university only because the age that I was there, I was a mature student, which meant that I wasn't dependent on the qualifications that I didn't have. So I got to university and I lasted about a year and a bit. My photography course, it started as a graphic design course, and then I was like, actually, I'm pretty good at graphic design. Maybe I can do photography. And they said, you can do photography, but we're not going to put you in the first year because your photos are quite good, and we understand that you know a fair amount already. And the way that the photography, I didn't realize, but I wasn't learning anything there either. What we were supposed to learn from there was history of art, on history of photography, and really sort of talking about why other people's stuff was really good. And that's cool, but I was there I wanted to do other things. And I spent lots of money on lenses, and I needed to get some of that money back. So I ended up working in IT for a company that's now owned, I think they were bought out by, Damien Hirst. is it The Artist? It was like an Apple Mac specialist company, and what would happen is in the evenings they would pay for me to get a taxi into the city. They'd give me a big pile of keys, and I'd go around all of these office buildings, which from a security perspective is reckless. But I think the owner was called Rick. He was a lovely guy, and we hung out a little bit before he gave me the job, and yeah, I think there was a measurement of trust there, and he kept track us really well. And I would work in the evenings, would there be a list of Apple Mac support was quite low back then, and it seemed like everything was Windows, and it still is. Finding an Apple server engineer or somebody that can do Active Directory integrations with Macs and PCs at the same time is quite rare nowadays. Even rarer back then. So I got into IT, and then I moved away from university because I wasn't going to stick out the course, and my logic was, I can take nice photographs sometimes, and if I show you a picture, hey Jemma, check this out, and then you go, oh, that's nice. I go, hey, check this out, I've got my certificate along it. You go, the picture's not any better, and I see the value in going through the process of university, because it's not necessarily the studying that's the important bit, it's the going through the process is the important bit, and it does irk me that I haven't finished that, but it doesn't really matter when I look at where I'm at professionally now. And that's a mix of some people have seen that if you expose your passion to people, I don't mean that like that might sound. If you expose your passion to people, then they're more likely to give you a chance. So, and I don't know if that's getting rarer, but having an online presence and showing people your math, like, challenging things, and if you challenge things and you're wrong, you've learned something, and having the candor to have that conversation. Don't challenge things like you're wrong. Maybe just could we do it this way? And I think that the language that you use when you do challenge things allows you a safety net of not looking like an ass, but also, you're stimulating conversation, you're getting people to talk about different paths to achieving stuff. But coming back around to the original question of the qualifications, when I spent some time at Investec Bank, I used to help those guys out, and I believe that my boss at the time, Douglas Grantham, Doug, he's a nice guy. He's a lovely South African guy. They're all lovely South Africans in Investec. I believe that he may have had to pull a bit of rank on HR, and HR were lovely as well. But I think that from a very strict criteria, I don't think that a lot of people know, or people might have the might be uninformed in terms of, you might be able to challenge HR and say, this person is the right person, let's take a risk. They don't have the qualifications, they're saying all the right things, they possibly need a chance more than those with qualifications. I know that those with qualifications are like, hey, shut up, John, I need to pay my bills too. And it's an open marketplace, so everybody for themselves kind of thing. But I am grateful for the people that have given me a leg up. I think that there's a few if I'm dropping names actually. Paul Cronin from, it used to be called Pentura, I think it's called RootSec now. Paul's lovely. If you've ever got a junior, send him to Paul. He'll make them into a security consultant. Whether they end up at Black Hat conferences or whether they just end up being like a day-to-day. I'll do the vulnerability management or I'll do the web app stuff. And Campbell Murray, he got me through my Tiger. So you've got Crest and you've got Tiger and you've got Cyber. I think it's all in turmoil now. I don't think Tiger exists anymore, to be honest. I think they're having a bit of a hard time. But he messaged me saying, if I can get you this exam, will you go to Wales and sit the exam? I thought, oh, cheers, dude. Yeah, you've probably saved me £2,000. He's like, well, the exam isn't quite official yet. We're still trying to measure whether or not it's worth being called an exam. And so I ended up going to Swansea University for free. I had to pay for my board, and I'd done this exam for Tiger web application security, and it eventually became a thing called a check team leader. That was a quite good exam to have in the UK. And what I will say is, having that did open up a lot of doors, but the precursor to sitting that exam wasn't you need English, you need math, you need, it was all have you studied cyber, either in your own time or at university. So one path is you can go to university for a couple of years and then you might come away with the same exam, or you can declare that you've worked in industry for more than 3 years and then you can do the exam. So on one side of the fence, I think it's not necessarily about the exam per se, but it's about demonstrating the baseline of knowledge that you have as a starting point. But on the other side of it, some of the most creative people will reject exams, and they might not get opportunities in large organizations, but they will probably end up working for those organizations in a contractor setting because of their value and because of their reputation, which it almost sounds like it cancels itself out. But there's people out there that if they believe the language that you're using and the points that you're making are high quality, they won't care about that stuff. The problem is HR doesn't know what that sounds like.
Yeah.
So it's if the HR firewall is ignorant of, I shouldn't say ignorant, if they don't care and they just say, do you have a CEH, a CISSP, like all of these certificates, do you have English and maths? Then, and you say no, you might automatically, without a human seeing that, be thrown on the shit pile.
Yeah.
And that's why going to networking events is probably more valuable than blasting your CV at people. Having actual face-to-face conversations. I shouldn't say that because I'm properly antisocial. I hate talking to people. You're very lucky I'm talking. I'm joking. But there's always another way, and that's why. And I think that resonates with people with dyslexia, ADHD, or on the spectrum. There's always another way, and that's the reason. That's one of the main reasons why we find vulnerabilities either in processes, procedures, technology stacks, like all kinds of things. It's like, I know what you're telling me is the right way, but let me just do a bit of a control test to see if I can't do it any other way. And I think that attitude, or that hacker mentality, if you will, it doesn't have to stay at work. I think there's been times where you reach out to people and you get a much better response than going through the formal channels, because the formal channels, from a process perspective, tick all of the boxes. For trying to get the right people, it might be laborious, and if you're doing somebody a favor, you don't feel too obliged to do them that favor. You're like, if they listen, I'll tell them something. If they're not listening, then they'll find out later the hard way. Like a lot of stuff before I was contracting, I spent a little bit of time doing bug bounties, and sometimes when you find vulnerabilities, some people don't necessarily have a bug bounty, but you still want to share, you've got this pretty big problem. And sometimes they refuse to give you an audience because the same reasons that if you can reach somebody to have a conversation with them just from over the internet, so can somebody sending them spam or cold calls for that latest next generation security product or whatever. So you can understand, why it's difficult to reach the right people, but I think having good relationships in the people that you've had on the show and their friends and their friends, if you're well networked, it's more value than I think is appreciated at face value. That makes sense.
Yeah.
I forgot what I'm talking about now, Jemma. Sorry, I just got one.
No, just one final thought on everything you just said, and I don't know if this is commonly known, but all of the CISOs that I've worked with, if they've met someone at a networking event and said, give me your CV, they will absolutely go to HR and say, get this person in with me. I want them to be considered, as opposed to the people that have been made through the sift because HR or whatever keyword search has been done on CVs. But I've seen things on LinkedIn where it says you will not be considered if you don't have CISP or whatever. So as part of the job application, you have to tick a box to say, yes, I have this. If you say no, then your CV doesn't even get submitted. So it's terrible. Moving on very quickly, what I've been asking everybody in this series is, October is Cyber Awareness Month. This is the final day of Cyber Awareness Month, and if Cyber Awareness Month was a genie in a lamp and you could make one cyber wish, what would that be?
Jemma, I would wish that I was a billionaire. See ya. No, I don't care about
Share
you guys.
some with me.
Oh, that's loaded because you've got. Let me just work this out because you didn't tell me that this question was going to happen. One thing.
Should have watched the other episodes then.
Sorry. I did watch some of them. I saw Nick's beard and I thought I'm never going to be the man that Nick is with my stubble. What?
So that was a bit of a technical failure, but thank you, John, for rejoining me to finish off the end of the episode in a lovely new shirt.
Thank you.
I maintained continuity and stayed in the same outfit, but thank you for giving me your time again. We ended that last part of the conversation for the viewers. So there are 3 seconds that happened there, but we've been some time since we ended that conversation. But I asked you the question: if Cyber Awareness Month was a genie in a lamp and you could make one cyber wish, what would that be?
I think I would go with. I really like the idea of people being able to visualize their data. And I only say that because it allows me the broader strokes of if you're technical or non-technical, if you can see the journey that your information is going on, you might think a little bit more about how you treat it. So I think if people were in a position to visualize the data at work, it would. I know I'm etching my wish now, but if it was at work, it might be visualize the data you're responsible for, and at home it might be visualize the data that should be cared for. So that's my answer that I immediately took no time in answering, and there hasn't been almost 6 hours between.
It's 3 seconds, yeah.
3 seconds. Yeah.
Just on it.
So that's my answer. Thank you.
I love that idea, and as you were describing that, it reminded me of I saw Tim Berners-Lee, the daddy of the internet, do a talk around data pods, and that's an evolution, I think, of something that I sort of had heard of. Bless him. It's quite difficult to listen to in a crowded space, but I guess what you reminded me of the thoughts that he inspired from me listening to this data pods thing, and it's absolutely an evolution. That would be so interesting, and I love that from a cultural and behavioral perspective. I would love that, because I think what we don't understand as humans is what does it mean? Like, so what happens with that? Like, why should I care about this? Sorry, carry on.
Just you like we were having a conversation at a place that we're both familiar with the other day, and we were talking about giving people information, and it's the main thing that almost everybody gets wrong is, what does it mean to me?
Yeah.
And it's that, like, you give somebody a blanket document that's got all of this possibly bossy, maybe even interpreted as arrogant information that you must do. Why? Like, what does it mean to somebody clicking on a bad link that's a manager, somebody that's clicking on a bad link that's a programmer, somebody that's clicking on a bad link that's front of house, somebody that's clicking on a bad link on their break, they work in the kitchen. Framing these sort of soft defense layers in language that people need across that vertical is something that it's something that it's probably going to take a bit more time for people to realize its true value. But what does it mean to me? And the only reason I'm smiling is because it's a fresh conversation for, if we're just telling people this thing that we understand in our disciplines and our expertise, and it's obvious to us because we're familiar with it and we've said it, we've read it, we've said it, but people are different, people listen differently, people hear differently, people interpret differently. Finding the right language or communication vehicle is paramount, and I worry that it'll take too long for everybody to get on board with that. Sorry for cutting across you there, but it's so fresh. Unlike our sort of gap in our conversation that was totally just 3 seconds.
Yeah.
But yeah, what does it mean to me? Is a brilliant one.
It's crucial. I mean, like, it's no secret that I mean, I posted all over LinkedIn when this happened to me, but I recently had an attempt at an account compromise. And so they didn't get in because I received the one-time passcode, and I saw that that was there, and I was like, ah, shit, I need to do something about that. But I was actually in a meeting when the one-time passcode came through, and so I couldn't do something about it in the moment, because I couldn't just say, oh, that's very interesting, sorry, let me just deal with this. So by the time that that situation had ended, like the meeting that I was in ended, I had forgotten that this thing had come through to my phone. So I then ignored it for a period of days. And now I'm stuck in an account recovery situation, which is tricky. It's tricky for me to navigate, but I have the benefit of other people, where I was able to go out onto LinkedIn and say, hey, security people who work at this company, like, can you give me a hand with, I just have some questions about verification.
Yeah.
That doesn't exist out in the world. And also, it's really fucking hard for people to recover their accounts when they don't know that, one, they're supposed to, or like to know that that one-time passcode is a flash, it's a
push or a prompt.
It's a trigger for something else.
I agree. And the other thing is, unless you've got user experience and security consideration baked in, like working in harmony rather than just this looks nice and this conforms to UX patterns. If you haven't had security in that conversation, then it's usually retrofitted and it's usually uncomfortable and it's annoying people because it's messed with their beautiful workflows. If you were there from the start with user experience, then it would be a different thing. Google's authenticator was quite clean. I had I don't mind talking about this. My Steam account, I don't really use Steam that much. I don't play that many video games anymore because I'm crap at them. But my Steam thing popped up and said, use the code to logging in. And I was like, all right, I need to change that password. And in my heart of hearts, I was like, it's a shit password. It's probably been in Have I Been Pwned or data sets for a while. That's my fault. Now I know that they can't break in, but I now know that they know that password worked, and then they're thinking might be, well, where else does it work that might not have MFA? And some of the problems that you find is I'll be asked questions, and this might be pertaining to credit history or access to files, accounts that have financial information or PII in there. And these questions might have been set a long time ago when there was an absolute banger of a song on that you loved for that song. It might be associated to that, and you're like, pretty sure it was Mr. Brightside. What, I'm joking, I hate the Killers, but there's you'll be like, oh, it might be this.
Most played song, apparently. I saw this the other day. It is the most played song of some era. But anyway, sorry, I interrupted.
I saw a metal guy cover it. I'll send you on Instagram later, and it's awesome. He does it in the theme of System of a Down. It's bloody great.
Nice.
Yeah. Anyway, one of the things that some places might do is ask you if you want to refresh your historical information. So your favorite thing as a childhood, you're probably not going to forget that one. Maybe your mum's maiden name, all of those key questions. Maybe we might get to a point where we don't need them because the authentication flow is much better, like maybe the way Spotify does its authentication and authorization. Or maybe you just say, are you sure you still want to use these questions? Do you want to revisit them? Because it seems like once you've answered your security questions on your sign up, they're like, okay, cool, we can have your data whenever we want now. We can do what we want with it. We don't need anything else from you. Yeah. We've got permission. And there isn't that, like everything else, like from an IT systems perspective, gets managed after it's gone live. Like the typical journey of architects want to build a thing because the business has told them to. Security architects get involved. They green light stuff. It gets built. It gets pen tested. It gets security assurance. It goes live. It gets managed. But your account management piece is almost up to you, and you've been given no training, and there's no expectation for anybody to give you, oh, by the way, do you want to change your email address to your new one, or do you want to? There's probably a lot of data out there from old email addresses I no longer use that's available to people to process in all kinds of different ways, and sometimes you have to let that shit go, and it sucks. But I think GDPR has sort of helped a little bit, and it's become more of a frustration for organizations, but quite rightly so. It is our data and it is our information, and a lot of it's historical, which means that once somebody's got it, they'll always know that you were born on that day. They'll always know that you went to that school. They'll always know that you signed up to these services with in this year, and you've got these friends, or anyway, I've completely gone off on one, but user experience and security, they should be hand in hand, and I say that with almost every part of most IT systems that are handling information. Like, where's your security component? And a lot of other people confuse privacy with security as well. Like, place where we used to work together, there was a lot of that where I'd be like, I can tell you what the answer is, but you really need to hear it from the privacy team. This is what I think that you'll expect from them, and it'll turn out there's actually a lot more work to do. I think that we work hand in hand because we see things as either risky or not risky, and that might apply to a technical system, a process, or some information, depending on its journey. Journey, Jemma.
The journey. As I think you mentioned that we've worked together in the past, and what I absolutely loved about working with you is you would find some highly technical thing that had happened, like, I guess, human impacting thing that could have consequences for real people, and you'd come to me and you'd be like, here's a proof of concept, this is what I did, what are we going to do about this? And quite often, what I do is seen as a nice to have in terms of the behaviours and the culture and the education side of things, and communicating with people. The so what, like, what does it mean for me, and how bad is it, and what is how risky is the thing that I've just done? And you always got it. And
do you know what? I never used to get it, and it was only through being exposed to you that I was like, Gemma's got game, actually. I appreciate that, like, security awareness training and culture security culture training, or security culture awareness, and that whole sort of ecosystem. I'd avoided it because I didn't understand it, and I'd also avoided it because I didn't feel disciplined in having conversations with people about it. But by avoiding it, I was also dismissive of it because I didn't want to talk about it because I was uncomfortable about what it is that I might be saying to people. I feel like, if you look at security as a key requirement and a vertical, the culture and security awareness component isn't a nice to have. It should be present just as much as the technical stuff. Like, I think, like, let's say, for example, the way that we might handle phishing as a journey for an organization. Some people might just want to get phished, and that might make some people feel bad. The way that we approached it, if you remember, we took one account. We did a build review to see what file extensions were susceptible to manipulation through poor, or quite rightly, malicious file handling. We looked at the filters on the network, things that might be stopping certain domains, and we worked from the end point all the way through to what a successful attack looked like. And then we set up a reverse proxy to do, like, the Evil Engine X MFA attack. And it wasn't to say, haha, we can get past MFA. It was to say you can fall victim to MFA, and having that demonstration available as a and I was only using my own account because I do kind of feel shitty phishing people. If people pay me to, I will phish people, but I don't really like it. And if I get the chance to not do that, I would rather just phish myself and demonstrate I can be phished. Therefore, if the context is relative to the target, they might click on that link and they might log in. And it's about having the technical controls in place to prevent that as much as you possibly can, or get visibility retrospectively if that's the best that you can get. And the way that the human layer is your last line of defense is probably the dominant line of defense based on most IT organizations. So realistically, you can have lots of defense layers in place, but you still need people to click on things and sign into things. And as long as you have that principle, you're always going to have that problem. So I think finding palatable ways for people to understand the status quo of you need to do your job, and we can't be obnoxious IT neckbeards going, can't believe that idiot clicked on that link. That's shit. You can't. I feel lucky enough to be working for organisations where none of them have that attitude, and I do hear about that. But maybe that's just a bit of a an old wives' tale now kicking around Twitter, where like people want to talk. I don't know, maybe not. Maybe I shouldn't say old wives' tale, but yeah,
I would say it. I think it's still quite prevalent. Yeah,
but,
I think you and I are fortunate.
We get to work. Game recognizes game, right? But
yes.
The other side of it is like I'm exposed to some really shifty friends, and I say that with love. Like, they are naughty people, they're very good at it. And some of the scenarios that they conjure up, like the whole debate around targeting people, like if you're doing attack emulation or attack simulation, you probably get phishing campaigns hitting you, and people will end up being compromised, and that's part of that journey. But I don't think you should necessarily be measuring users on their likelihood of clicking links, and they should be scored against that. I think it should be closer to the IT systems and defense visibility should be scored, and the remaining you're welcome should be the staff that's been taken under tuition and understands what a fish might look like. And if we're lucky on a good day, they'll stop a percentage of them where all of the other controls fail. Anyway, I've gone off on one now because I do think it's unfair targeting people, but
I'm completely with you. Actually, I don't know if I ever shared this with you, but you showed me an exploitable before, and I showed that to someone else who then went to their organization and implemented technical controls to stop that happening.
Good.
So a proof of concept that you put together to bring to me, I was like, watch this, and they immediately scurried away and were in a position to go and protect their staff. Was
I wearing a bright pink hat in this?
I think you might have been wearing a hat.
I know what you're on about. Do you know what? I can't really talk about it right now, but on Monday, me and my friend Dave Mound are going to drop something that's going to cause a lot of problems to the internet, and I'm very, very sorry. I'll give you the skinny offline, but
please do.
It's a good one. It's a good one. We'd messaged the director of the NSA, and he was like, "Oh, that's nice." He's like, I think CrowdStrike will be very interested in this. We spoke to some large defense companies. Some of them said we can't fix that, and an English one, actress, we had a good conversation with them. They're actually the only ones that stood out and said we're going to try and do what we can with this. Actually, before. I'd love to give you an exclusive, Jemma, but I've got to wait a few days for it to happen, and we've got to talk about it in some other places. But if people are watching this now, they might understand what.
If it makes a difference, this is going out at 10 o'clock on Monday, the 30th of October. If that makes a difference to what you can or cannot share with the viewers.
Let's see. I think we said we'd publish on Halloween.
Okay, so perhaps we can't spoil it. Sorry, John built up loads of
hype. It's going to be a really interesting problem. I don't want to oversell it, but I'll, after we finish talking here, I'll create what we're up to, and you'll be like.
And this is why you need cool friends like John. John, it has been an absolute pleasure talking to you. Thank you again for bearing with the technical challenges, and well, we're yet to decide whose fault it was, because I like to people please, so I'm going to say it was my fault. You also are going to say it was your fault, but yeah, obviously I will tag you in everywhere that's possible to tag you, and please do look out for John's breaking news on the internet breaking thing.
We've called it data bouncing, and it's essentially indirect exfiltration, which means you're using other systems to do things for you, and those systems are incredibly trusted, which makes it really problematic. That's all I'll say. But
okay.
I'll show you in a minute. Anyway, Jemma, happy to come and chat crap with you, or chat very sensible security stuff with you. If you ever get any dead space, or people unfortunately can't make it, I'm happy to come back and we can chew the fat on other stuff as well. But absolute pleasure. I'm sorry about the technical controls that may or may not have been my fault. Totally my fault.
And we're going to close out the series on that epic note of the cliffhanger. Thanks, John. Take care.